शुक्लांबरधरं विष्णुं शशिवर्णं चतुर्भुजं प्रसन्नवदनं ध्यायेत् सर्वविघ्नोपशान्तये। ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। अगजानन पद्मार्कं गजाननमहर्निशम् अनेकदन्तं भक्तानाम् एकदन्तमुपास्महे। श्रीमहागणपतये नमः। गुरवे सर्वलोकानां विषजे भवरोगिणां निधये सर्वविद्यानां श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। अस्मद्गुरुचरणारविन्दाभ्यां नमः। वसुदेवसुतं देवं कंसचाणूरमर्दनं देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुं। ज्ञानानन्दमयं देवं निर्मलस्फटिकाकृतिम् आधारं सर्वविद्यानां श्रीहयग्रीवमुपास्महे। श्रीहयग्रीवमूर्तये नमः। सरस्वती नमस्तुभ्यं वरदे कामरूपिणि विद्यारम्भं करिष्यामि सिद्धिर्भवतु मे सदा। श्रीमहासरस्वत्यै नमः। उमाकोमलहस्ताब्जसम्भावितललाटकं हिरण्यकुण्डलं वन्दे कुमारं पुष्करस्रजं। வெற்றிவேல் முருகனுக்கு ஹரஹரோஹரா. லோகவீரியம் மகாபூஜ்யம் சர்வரக்ஷாகரம் விபும் பார்வதி ஹிருதயானந்தம் சாஸ்தாரம் பிரணமாம்யகம். சுவாமியே சரணமையப்பா. வாகர்த்தாவிவ சம்பிருக்தௌ வாகர்த்த பிரதிபத்தயே ஜகதः பிதரௌ வந்தே பார்வதி பரமேஸ்வரௌ. ஸ்ரீ பார்வதி பரமேஸ்வராभ्यां நமः. कोमलं कूजयन् वेणुं श्यामलोऽयं कुमारकः वेदवेद्यं परब्रह्मा तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। अस्मद्गुरुचरणारविन्दाभ्यां नमः। श्रीकृष्ण गोविन्द हरे मुरारे श्रीनाथ नारायण वासुदेव। श्रीकृष्ण गोविन्द हरे मुरारे श्रीनाथ नारायण वासुदेव। श्रीकृष्ण गोविन्द हरे मुरारे श्रीनाथ नारायण वासुदेव। पीताम्बरं करविराजितचक्रशङ्खकौमोदकी सरसिजं करुणासमुद्रं राधासहायम् अतिसुन्दरमन्दहासं वातालयेशम् अनिशं हृदि भावयामि। कृष्णो रक्षतु मां चराचरगुरुः कृष्णं नमस्ये सदा। कृष्णेनैव सुरक्षितोऽहमसकृत् कृष्णाय दत्तं मनः। कृष्णादेव समुद्भवो मम विभो कृष्णस्य दासोऽस्म्यहं। कृष्णे भक्तिरचञ्चलास्तु भगवन् हे कृष्ण तुभ्यं नमः। श्रीगुरुवायूरप्पा शरणं नम्राणां सन्निधत्ते सततमपि पुरस्तैरणभ्यर्थितानपि अर्थान् कामानजस्रं वितरति परमानन्दसान्द्रां गतिं च। इत्थं निःशेषलभ्यो निरवधिकफलः पारिजातो हरे त्वं क्षुद्रं तं शक्रवाटी ध्रुममभिलषति व्यर्थमर्त्यव्रजोऽयं। श्रीगुरुवायूरप्पा शरणं श्रीभट्टपादम् अनिशं हृदि भावयामि। वंशी विभूषितकरात् नवनीरदाभात् पीताम्बरात् अरुणबिम्बफलादरोष्टात् पूर्णेन्दुसुन्दरमुखात् अरविन्दनेत्रात् कृष्णात् परं किमपि तत्त्वमहं न जाने। കൈരണ്ടും കൂപ്പി ഞാൻ വീണ്ടുമീറക്കുന്നു നീരജലോചന നിന്നോടായി. എതീനു മന്യനെ കുമ്പിടേണ്ടാത്തോരു രീതിയിൽ നീ എന്നെ പാലിക്കെന്നായി. കൃഷ്ണ ഹരേ ജയ കൃഷ്ണ ഹരേ ജയ കൃഷ്ണ ഹരേ ജയ കൃഷ്ണ ഹരേ. Good morning, everyone. I know a few people are not able to join today. Okay, so 86, who wants to do it? And two people can volunteer. Inga pandrila Ramya, 86. Okay, one half you can do. Who else wants to do other half?
First half I'll do. Yeah.
Okay.
I can do it, but I may have little bit issues with rhythm. Admata sonnella na padidren.
Oh, Iva Vijaya and Ramya Chodra.
Okay, no problem. No problem. Yeah.
Go ahead, Vijaya. Start.
Dasakam 86. साल्वादि वदवर्णनं भारतयुक्तवर्णं च साल्वो भैष्मे विवाहे विजितः चन्द्रचूडाद्विमानं विन्दन् सौभं समायी त्वयि वसितकुरून् तत्त्वपुरीम् अभ्यभाङ्क्षीत् प्रद्युम्नस्तं निरुन्धन् निखिल यदुभटैः उग्रवीर्यं तस्यात्मात्यं द्युमन्तं व्यजनि च समरः सप्तविंशत्यहान्तः.
And the last is samaras. You don't have to say samaraha. The is comes there. Okay.
Oh, samaras. तावत्त्वं रामशाली त्वरित उपगतः खण्डितप्रायसैन्यं सौभेशं तं न्यरुन्दाः स च किल गदया शाङ्गम् अभ्रंशयते मायातातं यहंसीत् अपि तव पुरतः तावत् तत्व्यापि क्षणार्धं नाज्ञायीत याहुरेके अवमथं व्यास एव निषेधीत् क्षिप्त्वा सौभं गदाचूर्णितम् उदकन्दिदौ मंक्षुसाल्वेऽपि चक्रे नोत्कृत्ते दन्तवक्त्रः प्रसभम् अभिपट्नन् अभ्यन्मुच्छद् गदां ते कौमोदक्या हतोऽसौ अपि सुकृतनिधिः चैद्यवत् प्रापदैक्यं सर्वेषामेष पूर्वं त्वयि धृतमनसां मोक्षणार्थोऽवतारः.
Vijay, and the third line, Sukrita Nidhihi. You said, right? If you have a visarga there, put a ish to join it. Okay. Sukrita Nidhish.
Nidish.
Okay.
Okay. त्वय्या याते जाते किल कुरु सदसि द्युक्तके संयतायाः क्रन्द्यन्त्या यज्ञसेनयाः शक्रुणम् अक्रताः चेलमालाम् अनन्तो प्राप्त शर्वांशज मुनि चकित द्रौपदी चिन्तितोत प्राप्त शाकानम् अश्नन् मुनिगणम् अकृताः तृप्तिमन्तं वनान्ते.
The second line, second word, Yagnya Senyaha. You said Yagnya.
Oh, Yagnya Senyaha.
Adhe mari, the same line, Sakarunam Akritaha. You are saying, right? The ish comes there, Akritash.
Akritash. Okay. Thank you. युद्धो योगेत मन्त्रे मिलति सति वृतः फल्गुनेन त्वमेकः कौरव्ये दत्त सैन्यः करिपुरम् अगमोधौत्कृत पाण्डवार्तम् भीष्म द्रोणादिमान्ये तव खलु वचने धिक्कृते कौरवेन व्यावृण्वन् विश्वरूपं मुनि सदसि पुरीं शोभयित्वा गतो भूः.
Sorry. You can do 2 more lines of the next stanza and stop.
Yeah, sure. जिष्णोत्स्त्वं कृष्णसुतः खलु समरमुखे बन्धुघाते दयालुं खिन्नं तं वीक्ष्य वीरं किमिदमयि सखे नित्य एकोऽयमात्मा को.
Anga, you can stop there. Thanks.
Okay.
को वद्यः कौत्रहन्ता तदिह वदभियं प्रोज्ञ मय्यार्पितात्मा धर्मयं युद्धं चरेति प्रकृतिमनयताः दर्शयन् विश्वरूपम् भक्तो तं सेत भीष्मे तव धरणिभर क्षेपकृत्यैकसक्ते नित्यं विबिन्दतयुतसमधिकं प्राप्तसादे च पार्थे निःशस्त्र प्रतिज्ञां विजह दरिवरं धारयन् क्रोधशाली वादावन् प्राञ्जलिं तं नशिरसमथो वीक्ष्य मोदादपागाः.
And the last line, Ramya, natashira samato.
नतशिरसमतो वीक्ष्य मोदादपागाः युद्धे द्रोणस्य हस्ति स्थिररण भक्ततेरितं वैष्णवास्त्रं वक्षस्यादत्त चक्रस्थगित रविमहाः प्रार्थयत्सिन्धुराजं नागास्त्रे कर्णमुक्ते क्षितिमवन्मयन् केवलं कृतमौलिन् तत्रापि पार्थं किमिव न हि भवान् पाण्डवानाम् अकार्षीत् युद्धादौ तीर्थगामी स खलु हलधरो नैमिष क्षेत्रमृच्छन् अप्रत्यूथा यिसुत कृदत सुतं तत्पदे कल्पयित्वा यज्ञन्नं बल्वलं पर्वणि परिदलयन् सन्नाथ तीर्थो रणान्ते सम्प्राप्तो भीमदुर्योधनरणमशं वीक्ष्य यातः पुरीं ते.
And the last word, Bhima Duryodhana Ranamashamam.
भीमदुर्योधन रणमशमं वीक्ष्य यातः पुरीं ते. संसुप्त द्रौपदेय क्षपण हतधियं द्रौणीमेत्य त्वदुक्त्या तन्मुक्तं ब्राह्ममस्त्रं संहत विजयो मौलिरत्नं च जह्रे उच्चित्यै पाण्डवानां पुनरपि च विशत्युत्तरा गर्भस्त्रे रक्षन् न अङ्गुष्टमात्रः किल जठरमगाः चक्रपाणिर्विभो त्वं धर्मौघं धर्मसूनो अभिददखिलं चन्दमृत्युस भीष्मः त्वां पश्यन् भक्तिभूमन्मनैव हि सपदि ययौ निष्कल ब्रह्मभूयं संयाज्याथाश्वमेधै
Anga and the medhais varikam you say. Samyajathashvamedhais.
Samyajathashvamedhais mahitai dharmajam purnakamam samprapto dvarakam tvam pavanapurapate pahi mam sarvarogat.
Krishnaya Parabrahmane Namaha. Good job, both of you. It's a little of a tough chapter for sure. So, okay, we'll continue. We have two more stanzas left in 89, and then we'll get on to 90. So let me just see who I had today. Shanti, you can be. Oh, Shanti was. Oh, you're on, right? Okay, yeah. Shanti, you can be a student first off, and Vasanta Garu, you can be a student. So, stanza 9, 89. निश्चित्यते च सुदृढं त्वयि बद्धभावाः सारस्वता मुनिवराधदिरे विमोक्षं त्वामेवमच्युत पुनश्च्युतिदोषहीनं सत्त्वोचकैकतनुमेव वयं भजामः. So we saw last time about two stories, right? We saw about Brikasura, that was the first thing we saw. And then the second one was around Brigu, right? When they were all conducting kind of this yajnam in the banks of Saraswati. So they wanted to find out who is the most sattvic. So first Brigu went to, Brahma, and then we saw how he kind of insulted Brahma through his mind, which is not paying respect to Brahma. Then he went to Kailasha, to Shiva, and then he insulted Shiva with his words. And both of them got a little upset. Finally, then he went to the Shweta Dvipa, where Vaikuntham is there. And then there he insulted Krishna or Narayana by kicking him. And then Narayana then said, he didn't get offended at all and actually felt sorry for not receiving Brigu. So anyway, so Brigu then comes to realization that Narayana is the most sattvic, absolutely no anger in him. And then when Brigu then comes back to the Saraswati river where everybody is there, kind of exalting, talking about the greatness of Narayana and how you are the most sattvic of everybody, and completely detached from any personal issues and all of that stuff, right? They're completely detached from all of that. And then who has the Ashtasiddhi and everything, and then they praise Brigu and everybody praise Narayana. Nischitya techa sudridham tvai baddha bhavaha, comma, Saraswata munivara dadire vimoksham tvam evam achyuta. You can break it into three parts. Tvam evam achyuta punaschuti doshahinam, comma, sattvochayeika. Do not break that word, double it and double cha coming there. Sattvochayeika tanumeva vayam bhajamaha. निश्चित्यते च सुदृढं त्वयि बद्धभावाः सारस्वता मुनिवराधदिरे विमोक्षं त्वामेवमच्युत पुनश्च्युतिदोषहीनं सत्त्वोचयैकतनुमेव वयं भजामः.
निश्चित्य देश सुदृढं त्वयि बद्धभावाः सारस्वता मुनिवरादधिरे विमोक्षं त्वामेवमच्युत पुनश्च्युतिदोषहीनं सत्त्वोच्चयैकतनुमेव वयं भजामः. निश्चित्य देश सुदृढं त्वयि बद्धभावाः सारस्वता मुनिवरादधिरे विमोक्षं त्वामेवमच्युत पुनश्च्युतिदोषहीनं सत्त्वोच्चयैः तनुमेव वयं भजामः.
निश्चित्यते च सुदृढं त्वयि बद्धभावाः सारस्वता मुनिवरादधिरे विमोक्षं त्वामेवमच्युत पुनश्च्युतिदोषहीनं सत्त्वोच्चयैकतनुमेव वयं भजामः. निश्चित्यते च सुदृढं त्वयि बद्धभावाः सारस्वता मुनिवरादधिरे विमोक्षं त्वामेवमच्युत पुनश्च्युतिदोषहीनं सत्त्वोच्चयैकतनुमेव वयं भजामः.
Stanza 10. Jagat Srishtiyadau Tvam Nigama Nivahairvandibhiriv Stutam Vishnu Sachet Paramarasa Nirdvaita Vapusham Paratmanam Bhuman Pashupa Vanita Bhagya Nivaham Parita Pashranti Pavanapura Vasin Paribhaje. So, like I said, so once in a while, the last stanza becomes like a stuti, right? Where there's a praise happening. So, this is one such stanza, which means you can kind of say it anytime you want. This kind of just summarizing, saying that, O Narayana, at the beginning of the creation, you were praised by the Vedas, just like how everybody in the king's court, all the poets praise the king. Similarly, you were praised by the Vedas. That was there at the beginning, right? In that particular way. And then you, who's again Satchit Paramarasa, you are the supreme, the full consciousness, condensed bliss of all that consciousness. And you are also Pashupa Vanita Bhagyanivakam. What it says is all the Bhagyam, all the punyam of all the gopi women, the cowherd women, if you condense it and then you create a form of it, you are that form, that, Pavana Puravasana, or that Lord of Guruvayur, please eradicate all my ailments. So, Jagat Srishtiyadau Tuam Nigama Nivahair Vandi Bhiriva, Stutam Vishnu Satchit Parama Rasa Nirdvaita Vapusham Paratmanam Bhuman Pashupa Vanitha Bhagya Nivaham Paritapa Shrantye Pavanapura Vasin Paribhaje. Jagat Srishtiyadau Tvam Nigama Nivahairvandibhiriva Stutam Vishnu Satchit Paramarasa Nirdvaita Vapusham Paratmanam Bhuman Pashupa Vanita Bhagya Nivaham Paritapa Shrantye Pavanapura Vasin Paribhaje.
जगत्सृष्ट्यादौ त्वां निवहैर्वन्दिपिरिव स्तुतं विष्णो सच्चित् परमरसनिर्द्वैत्वपुषं परात्मानं भूमन् पशुभवनिता भाग्यनिवहं परीतापश्रान्त्यै पवनपुरवासिन् परिभजे जगत्सृष्ट्यादौ त्वां निवहैर्वन्दिपिरिव स्तुतं विष्णो सच्चित् परमरसनिर्द्वैतवपुषं निर्द्वैतवपुषं परात्मानं भूमन् पशुभवनिता भाग्यनिवहं परीतापश्रान्त्यै पवनपुरवासिन् परिभजे
जगत्सृष्ट्यादौ त्वां निगमनिवहैर्वन्दिभिरिव स्तुतं विष्णो सच्चित् परमरसनिर्द्वैतवपुषं परात्मानं भूमन् पशुपनिवनिता भाग्यनिवहं परीतापश्रान्त्यै पवनपुरवासिन् परिभजे जगत्सृष्ट्यादौ त्वां निगमनिवहैर्वन्दिभिरिव स्तुतं विष्णो सच्चित् परमरसनिर्द्वैतवपुषं परात्मानं भूमन् पशुपनिवनिता भाग्यनिवहं परीतापश्रान्त्यै पवनपुरवासिन् परिभजे.
Third line, last word, Pashupa Vanita.
Oh, sorry.
I think you were saying something else there.
Yes.
Okay, Shri Krishna Parabrahmane Namaha. Yes, that completes 89. So moving on to 90. So of course, from 90 on, we already saw some of the chapters, right? It's kind of all philosophical things on the majority of them. It is a combination of two things. It's primarily comes from the 11th skandam of Bhagavatam, which is kind of summarizing all the karma yoga, jnana yoga, bhakti yoga, all of that. And also the instructions which were actually given by Krishna to Uddhava. So it's called Uddhava Gita, which is the Gita is something which is sung by the Lord itself, which is sung by Krishna to Uddhava. Just like Bhagavad Gita, this is Uddhava Gita. So majority of this is kind of talking through all of that. It'll be a little bit dry and boring, but so this 90 also I'm not going to say meaning for everything, but I'll tell you what the core essence of it, and some stanzas I'll give you examples. So 90 is Agamadinam Parama Tatparya Nirupanam. It says, no matter how many scriptures are there in this world, and no matter what those scriptures say, they say the root of the scriptures is all pointing only to one thing, that there is one supreme Lord. That's what the root of the scriptures are pointing to. On the surface, it may look like each of them is trying to say something different, trying to praise different God, but it says on the root, it is only praising that one supreme Brahman, and that's what this chapter is going to talk about. So stanza 1. वृकभृगुमुनिमोहिन्यम्बरीषादिवृत्तेषु अयि तव हि महत्त्वं सर्वशर्वादिजैत्रं स्थितमिह परमात्मन् निष्कलार्वागभिन्नं किमपि यदवभातं तद्विरूपं तवैव. So he starts off by saying that in all these examples of Vrika is referring to Vrikasura, who we saw in the 89th Dasakam, who Shiva gave him a boon, but then he came, then Narayana had to come and rescue. Then Bhrigu Maharshi episode also, which we saw in 89, who came in and said, oh Narayana, you are the most sattvic of everybody. Then Ambarisha Charitam, if you remember from Dashakam 33, where Durvasa comes and then, he then sends a krita towards Ambarisha, then the Sudarshana Chakra comes and then it finally comes back and all that. So that Charitram. Then Mohini Avataram, which we saw, where Mohini Avataram also, the Shiva fell under the control of Mohini. So he says, when you talk about all of these instances and several instances in Krishna Avataram, which we have already saw how Krishna then won over Brahma, won over Indra, won over Agni, won over Vayu, all of these people. So Sarva referring to everybody, Sharva referring to Shiva. So he says, when you come, and it doesn't matter, you can have anybody can have any god or goddess as your Ishtadevat, and there's absolutely not an issue with it at all. All this is kind of saying is, when amongst all these examples, it has been proven again and again that, oh Narayana, you are the greatest of the Lords because you are the supreme soul. And we'll talk in the next stanza about, I'll talk a little bit technical, but it'll tell about how the source of everything is, right? So anyway, it says amongst all this, you kind of prove that you're won over all these demigods like Indra, Varuna, etc. So even though people may continue to worship them, that's okay. But at the end of the day, oh Narayana, you are the super Brahman, right, who's sitting on top, supreme Lord there. And then it also talks about you have a kind of what do you call a form, which is you take different forms like everybody else, like Indra and everyone else. At the same time, you also have a Nirguna form, which is formless. So you are both. So I can't say you are this or I can't say you are that, because you are both. As needed, you can be completely formless, but when needed, you can also take a form. So that's kind of the one of this. It starts off by saying that. So Brika, Bhrigu, Muni, Mohin Yambarishadi. So it's Mohini Ambarishadi, but it will become joined there. So Mohin Yambarishadi Vritteshu. Put a shu at the end of that line and comma. Vritteshu. Next line, the ish and the va you have will go away. It becomes a. Ai tavahi mahatvam sarva sharvadi jaitram. Stitamiha paramatman Nishkalarvagabhinnam, Kimapi Yadava Bhatam Taddi Rupam Tavaiva. Vrikabhrigu Muni Mohin Yambari Shadi Vritteshu Aitavahi Mahatvam Sarva Sharvadi Jaitram Stitamiha Paramatman Nishkalarvagabhinnam Kimapi Yadava Bhatam Taddi Rupam Tavaiva.
भृगभृगु मुनि मोहिन्यम्बरीषादि वृत्तेषु अयि तव हि महत्त्वं सर्वसर्वादिचैत्रम्. I think I lost rhythm.
Kind of Brika Bhrigu Muni Mohin Yambarishadi Vritteshu Ayi tava hi mahatvam Sarva Sharvadi Jaitram.
भृगभृगु मुनि मोहिन्यम्बरीषादि वृत्तेषु अयि तव हि महत्त्वं no, again I lost.
Got it, yeah.
सर्वसर्वादिचैत्रं स्थितितमिह परमात्मन् निष्कलार्वागभिन्नं किमपि यदवपादं तत्तिरूपं तवैव. I think I totally lost it.
The third line you lost. Yeah, keep trying.
I lost it, yeah. So it's vriddeshu comma, right? You start with vriga.
End of the line, every end of the line there is a comma.
So vriga bhrigu muni mohin मोहिन्यम्बरीषादिवृत्तेषु
Yeah,
अयि
comma.
तव हि महत्त्वं सर्वसर्वादिजैत्रं स्थितितमिह परमात्मन् निष्कलार्वागभिन्नं किमपि यदवपादं तत्तिरूपं तवैव.
Exactly, same thing. See, the same as Nama Dashakam 33, right? The Ambarisha Charitram. No, not that. Some other chapter has the same. It's the same thing. It's a four-liner thing, but just not long sentence. Yeah.
Thank you.
वृखभृगु मोहिन्यम्बरीषादिवृत्तेषु अयितव हि महत्त्वं सर्वशर्वादिजैत्रं तितमिह परमात्मन् निष्कलार्वागभिन्नं किमपि यदवभातं तद्दिरूपं तवैव. वृखभृगुमुनिमोहिन्यम्बरीषादिवृत्तेषु अयितव हि महत्त्वं सर्वशर्वादिजैत्रं स्थितमिह परमात्मन् निष्कलार्वागभिन्नं किमपि यदवभातं तद्दिरूपं तवैव.
Stanza 2. So I think stanza 2. Yes. And the rest of the stanzas follow one tune. So. मूर्तित्रहेश्वर सदाशिव पञ्चकम्यते प्राहुः परात्मवपुरेव सदाशिवोऽस्मिन् तत्रेश्वरस्तु स विकुण्ठपदस्त्वमेव त्रित्वं पुनर्भजसि सत्यपदे त्रिभागे. Like it says, all of this will kind of lead to only one conclusion at the end in all these stanzas. So here it says all the different names which you are seeing. You're seeing Brahma, Shiva, Vishnu, Ishvara, Sadashiva. He says all of that is ultimately referring to only one main Supreme Lord. He says that it's you, O Narayana. That's how it starts with. And the explanation, if you look at the kind of the how the incarnations proceed, right? So it first talks about that first there was one kind of a Vishnu, because we hear all these different Vishnu, Nara, it all gets very confusing, right? So it first talks about there are three types of Vishnus it talks about. One Vishnu, it talks about is Karana Udakashayi. It's called Karanodakashayi Vishnu. So that Vishnu is the primary Purusha that we spoke about, right? So that is like none of them have a form. Okay, some people they're given a form to explain what it is. So this Karanodakashayi Vishnu is the first Purusha who creates the various ingredients required for material development to happen. Ingredients required for the universe development to happen. Kind of the core essence of that, because initially there's nothingness. So there's some core ingredients have to be there. So this Karanodakashayi Vishnu is the one who develops those ingredients which have to happen. And from this Karanodakashayi Vishnu, multiple universes keep spanning out all the times. Now, in each of those universe, a portion of this Karanodakashayi Vishnu ends there as Garbhodakashayi Vishnu, which is Garbha Udakashayi Vishnu. So into each of these universe, this Garbhodakashayi Vishnu enters. We saw a long time back in the 5th Dashakam, 6th Dashakam about how from the Nabhi of this Vishnu, a bud arose which had all the worlds in there, the 14 worlds, and from which Brahma came. So this Garbhodakashayi Vishnu is lying at the bottom of that universe from whose Nabhi the 14 worlds come out. Okay, and from there Brahma comes. So what it says is 14 worlds are part of this Garbhodakashayi Vishnu. Now, from this Garbhodakashayi Vishnu, Brahma comes. We saw how from the Mridha comes from the middle of the eyes of Brahma, who becomes Rudra. And then this also talks about there's a third Vishnu, who comes from this Karana, the Garbhodakashayi Vishnu, who is responsible for who's the kind of the super soul of all the entities in the world. So that is the third Vishnu, which is actually there. Udakashayi Vishnu, I forget the name. Anyway, so these are the three Vishnus which they say who are actually there. So the one of this Vishnu, like we say, one Vishnu takes care of everything, right? So that's called the Kshirodakashayi Vishnu, who's the maintainer, and Shiva, who's the Mrida, who's coming from Brahma, and then Brahma, who's there. So it's just because all of them come from this Garbhodakashayi Vishnu, and this Garbhodakashayi Vishnu itself came from the first Vishnu. He says all of them, O Narayana, ultimately read to you, because all these Vishnu, Shiva, Brahma, all of them reside, they say, at the Satya Loka, which is the top level. But says, but your Vaikuntham is beyond this Brahmanda, right? So it's not part of this 14 words, it's beyond the Brahmanda. So he says, no matter what name you give to anybody, ultimately the source leads to you, O Narayana. You are the ultimate source of everything. That's what this is talking about. So you can give people different names, you can worship everybody, but the ultimate source of it is Narayana, who's living outside the Brahmandam in Vaikuntham. So Murti Trayeshwara Sadashiva Panchakam Yat, comma, Prahuf Paratma Vapureva Sadashivosmin Tatreshwarastu Sa Vikuntha Padastvameva Tritvam Punar Bhajasi Satyapade Tribhage. Murtitraheshwara Sadashiva Panchakam Yat Prahuf Paratma Vapureva Sadashivosmin Tatreshwarastu Sabikuntha Padastvameva Tritvam Punar Bhajasi Satyapade Tribhage.
मूर्तित्रयेश्वर सदाशिव पञ्चकं यत् ब्राहुः परात्मवपुरेव सदाशिवोऽस्मिन् तत्रेशवरस्तु च विकुण्डपतस्त्वमेव त्रित्वं पुनर्भजसि सत्यपते त्रिभागे मूर्तित्रयेश्वर सदाशिव पञ्चकं यत् ब्राहुः परात्मवपुरेव सदाशिवोऽस्मिन् तत्रेशवरस्तु च विकुण्डपदस्मवेव त्रित्वं पुनर्भजसि सत्यपते त्रिभागे.
Shanti, in the third line, first word, Tatreshwarastu, Tatra Ishwarastu, Tatreshwarastu.
Okay. Okay.
मूर्तित्रयेश्वर सदाशिव पंचकं यत् प्राहुः परात्मावपुरेव सदाशिवोऽस्मिन् तत्रेश्वरस्तु सविकुण्ठपदस्त्वमेव त्रित्वं पुनर्भजसि सत्यपदे त्रिभागे मूर्तित्रयेश्वर सदाशिव पंचकं यत् प्राहुः परात्मावपुरेव सदाशिवोऽस्मिन् तत्रेश्वरस्तु सविकुण्ठपदस्त्वमेव त्रित्वं पुनर्भजसि सत्यपदे त्रिभागे
Tatrapi Sattvikathanum Tava Vishnumahuhu Dhata tu Sattvaviralo Rajasaiva Purnaha Sattvotkatatvamapi Chasti Tamo Vikara Cheshtadikancha Tava Shankaranam Nimurthau. So kind of continuing, right? It's this extension of that, kind of saying this Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva, who are there within this Brahmandam in the Satya Loka, who are all coming from the Garbhodakashayi Vishnu. Each of them have a role to play, right? So the role which Brahma plays, which requires him to have a desire to create, else there'll be no creation. So he says that Brahma has a lot of rajas in him. Now, Shiva has a certain purpose to play, which is going to come at the end of when the destruction is happening. So, he says Shiva has a lot of tamas in him. However, the Udakashayi Vishnu, Garbhodakashayi Vishnu, who is there, everybody comes out of him, and this Vishnu has a role to play, which is to maintain the sustenance of the universe, because he is the universal soul from which everybody comes. So, he has a role to play. So, that's what it's kind of continuing from what we said earlier, is it's all your manifestations only, but each of them have a different role, because of which each of them have a different combination of the gunas. Tatrapi Satvika Tanum Tava Vishnu Mahuhu. Put a visarga there and comma. Next line, the ir goes away. Dhata tu Sattva Viralo Rajasaiva Purnaha Sattvotkata Twamapi. One word. Sattvotkata Twamapi Chasti Tamo Vikara. Put a plus after that. Cheshtadi Kancha Tava Shankara Namni Murthau. Tatrapi Sattvikathanum Tava Vishnu Mahuhu Dhata tu Sattva Viralo Rajasaiva Purnaha Sattvotkatatvamapi Chasti Tamo Vikara Cheshtadi Kancha Tava Shankara Namni Murthau.
तत्राभि सात्विकतनुं तव विष्णुमाहु दाता
Mahuhu anga visarga irukku.
तत्राभि सात्विकतनुं तव विष्णुमाहुः तादादु सत्त्वविरलो रजसैव पूर्णः सत्त्वोत्कटत्वमभिशास्ति तमो विकारस्येष्टादिकञ्च तव सङ्गरनाम्नि मूर्तौ तत्रापि सात्विकतनुं तव विष्णुमाहुः दाधातु सत्त्वविरलो रजसैव पूर्णः सत्त्वोत्कटत्वमभिशास्ति तमो विकारशेष्टादिकञ्च तव सङ्गरनाम्नि मूर्तौ
तत्रापि सात्विकतनुं तव विष्णुमाहुः धाता तु सत्त्वविरलो रजसैव पूर्णः सत्त्वोत्कटत्वमपि चास्ति तमो विकारचेष्टादिकं च तव शङ्करनाम्नि मूर्तौ तत्रापि सात्विकतनुं तव विष्णुमाहुः धाता तु सत्त्वविरलो रजसैव पूर्णः सत्त्वोत्कटत्वमपि चास्ति तमो विकारचेष्टादिकं च तव शङ्करनाम्नि मूर्तौ
Stanza 4. Tam cha trimurtyati gatam parapurusham tvam, Sharvatmanapi khalu sarva mayatva hetoho Shamsanti upasana, remember that word, Shamsantyupasana vidhau tadapi swatastu, Twadrupam ityati dridam bahu naf pramanam. Again, it's continuation of it all talks about the same thing, that you are the supreme consciousness, you are above all of them, kind of what the explanation we spoke. Tam cha trimurtyati gatam parapurusham tvam Sharvatmanapi khalu sarvamayatva hetoho Shamsantyupasana vidhau tadapi swatastu Twadrupamityati dridham bahunaf pramanam.
तं च त्रिमूर्त्यधिकदं परपूरुषं त्वां सर्वात्मनाभि खलु सर्वमयत्वहेदो संसन्ध्युपासन विदौ तदपि स्वतस्तु त्वद्रूपम् इत्यदि दृढं बहुनः प्रमाणम् तं त्रिमूर्त्यधिकदं परपूरुषं त्वां सर्वात्मनाभि खलु सर्वमयत्वहेदोः संसन्ध्युपासनविधौ तदपि स्वतस्तु त्वद्रूपम् इत्यदि दृढं बहुनः प्रमाणम्
तं च त्रिमूर्त्यतिगतं परपूरुषं त्वां सर्वात्मनापि खलु सर्वमयत्वहेतोः संसन्त्युपासनविधौ तदपि स्वतस्तु त्वद्रूपमित्यतिदृढं बहुनः प्रमाणम् तं च त्रिमूर्त्यतिगतं परपूरुषं त्वां सर्वात्मनापि खलु सर्वमयत्वहेतोः संसन्त्युपासनविधौ तदपि स्वतस्तु त्वद्रूपमित्यतिदृढं बहुनः प्रमाणम्.
Stanza 5. Shri Shankaropi Bhagavan Sakaleshu Tavat Twameva Manayati Yo Nahi Pakshapati Twanishtameva Sahi Nama Sahasrakadi Vyakyat Bhavat Stuti Parascha Gatim Gatonte. Like we said, we initially started off by saying all the scriptures, right? So he's going to give some examples here. So he's saying Adi Shankaracharya, who is not a sectarian, so he doesn't believe in one political group or one religion or one type of God. He's Advaita, that's his core philosophy, saying everybody is one with the Lord. The Lord is inside of everyone and everyone is part. He's a true believer of Advaita. So he says, but even Adi Shankaracharya, he had to praise, he has written about Shiva, he has written about Devi, he's written about Narayana, he's written about everything. He says, because for the common man to be able to relate, you need to be able to get one of the forms, right? So he gives the two examples. He talks about how Adi Shankaracharya was still considered, oh Narayana, he wrote a lot of work about you because even his works were leading to you. So one example he gives is, when Adi Shankaracharya wanted to write commentary on Lalita Sahasranama, so at the time Kashmir was a repository of all the books of it's a library. So they all went there, and there he wanted to write this commentary on Lalita Sahasranamam, and then he sends one of his Shishya disciples to go get the original copy or whatever copy was there. That person comes back with a copy of Vishnu Sahasranamam. So Adi Shankaracharya says, no, I want to write about Lalita Sahasranamam. So this happens 2-3 times. This person comes back and is bringing back the text of Vishnu Sahasranamam. So then Adi Shankaracharya is asking him, like, what, I told you to bring Vishnu Sahasranamam, how do you keep bringing Lalita Sahasranamam? So the disciple says, there is a girl inside who's taking care of this, and she keeps giving me this every time I ask for Lalita Sahasranamam. So even Adi Shankaracharya then realized, okay, no, I have to first write commentary on Vishnu Sahasranamam first, before I can even write commentary on Lalita Sahasranamam. So that's what he first writes. He writes Bhasham on both, but first he starts with Vishnu Sahasranamam. And then here it says, even at the end of his life, when Adi Shankaracharya saw this, this person, learning Sanskrit grammar on the banks of Banaras, when he wrote Bhaja Govindam, he wrote that song. Even there, Adi Shankaracharya is also telling that, don't do anything, just Bhaja Govindam, just worship Govinda all the time. And then he also says, you have to learn up, you have to do the Sahasranamam, and then you learn the Gita. That's what he's explaining in this Bhaja Govindam. So he says, all this is leading to you, O Narayana, that's what, even Adi Shankaracharya is recommending. So Sri Shankaropi Bhagavan Sakhaleshu Tavat, put the it at the end of that line, comma. Next line, you have double it, one of that goes away. Twameva manayati yo nahi pakshapati tvanishtameva sahi nama sahasrakadhi, put a plus. Vyakyat, I think some books may have Vyakhyat, change it to Vyakyat if you have it. Vyakyat Bhavat Stuti Parascha Gatim Gatonte. Shri Shankaropi Bhagavan Sakaleshu Tavate Tvameva Manayati Yo Nahi Pakshapati Tvanishtameva Sahinama Sahasrakadi Vyakyat Bhavat Stuti Parascha Gatim Gatonte.
श्रीशङ्करोऽपि भगवान् सकलेषु दावत् त्वामेव मानयति यो न हि पक्षपाती त्वन्निष्टमेव सखि नाम सहस्रकादि व्याक्यत् भवस्तुति परश्च गतिं कदोन्ते.
Until the first line on the Sakaleshu Tavat, and then there's a comma. I think you stopped after Sakaleshu.
Okay. श्रीशङ्करोऽपि भगवान् सकलेषु दावत् त्वामेव मानयति यो न हि पक्षपाती त्वन्निष्टमेव सखि नाम सहस्रकादि व्याक्यत् भवस्तुति परश्च कदिं कदोन्ते.
श्रीशङ्करोऽपि भगवान् सकलेषु तावत् त्वामेव मानयति यो न हि पक्षपाती त्वन्निष्टमेव सहि नाम सहस्रकादिव्याख्यत् भवस्तुति परश्च गतिं गतोऽन्ते. श्रीशङ्करोऽपि भगवान् सकलेषु तावत् त्वामेव मानयति यो न हि पक्षपाती त्वन्निष्टमेव सहि नाम सहस्रकादिव्याख्यत् भवस्तुति परश्च गतिं गतोऽन्ते.
मूर्तित्रयातिकमुवाच च मन्त्रशास्त्रस्यादौ कलाय सुषमं सकलेश्वरं त्वां ध्यानं च निष्कलमसौ प्रणवे कलुक्त्वा त्वामेव तत्र सकलं निजगादनान्यम्. So he talks about this thing called Prapancha Sara. Where does it come here? Yeah, the Mantra Shastra is kind of referring there. It's kind of something, a work called Mantra Shastra, which is also called as Prapancha Shastra or something, which Adi Shankaracharya wrote, which talks about, because it is, 5 things he talks about. He talks about the core Pancha Bhutam, and then he talks about the basic elements. He talks about the Pranava Mantra. He goes a lot of details into all of those technical details there. So even there, what this says is, even in that, where he talks about the meaning of the Om Namo Narayanaya, he talks about that, he refers to that in that, when he's referring to the concept of the Pranava Mantra, and in that he references how you do meditation. And in terms of how we do meditation, like we saw in the Ashtanga Yoga, Dharana, Dhyana, and finally reaching Samadhi, in that also the form which Adi Shankaracharya is referring in that Mantrasara is the form of you, O Narayana, which is blue in color, kind of that particular form, right? The blue lily color that is there, holding having the Chatur Bhujam and everything. That's the form Adi Shankaracharya is recommending for meditation. That's what this is talking about. And we saw how, I think later on one of the chapters in Krishna's advice to Uddhava, it's going to come. So I'll go into more details about how to visualize and where to visualize and all that. But here it just talks about Adi Shankaracharya, even in his, in his scriptures, he's referring to think about you when you're doing the dhyanam and the dharana state of meditation. So Murti Trayati Ghamuvacha Cha Mantra Shastra, then put a plus, Syadau Kalaya Sushamam Sakaleshwaram Twam. So those two lines together. Dhyanam cha Nishkalamasau Pranave Kaluktva, comma, Twameva Tatra Sakalam Nijagada Nanyam. Murte Trayati Gamuvacha cha Mantra Shastra Syadau Kalaya Sushamam Sakaleshwaram Twam. Dhyanam cha Nishkalamasau Pranave Kaluktva Twameva Tatra Sakalam Nijagada
मूर्तित्रयादिकमुवाच च मन्त्रशास्त्रस्यादौ कलाय सुषमं सकलेश्वरं त्वां ध्यानं च निष्कलमसौ प्रणवे कलुक्त्वा त्वामेव तत्र सकलं निजगादनान्यम् मूर्तित्रयादिकमुवाच च मन्त्रशास्त्रस्यादौ कलाय सुषमं सकलेश्वरं त्वां ध्यानं च निष्कलमसौ प्रणवे कलुक्त्वा त्वामेव तत्र सकलं निजगादनान्यम्
मूर्तित्रयातिगमुवाच च मन्त्रशास्त्रस्यादौ कलाय सुषमं सकलेश्वरं त्वां ध्यानं च निष्कलमसौ प्रणवे खलुक्त्वा त्वामेव तत्र सकलं निजगादनान्यम् मूर्तित्रयातिगमुवाच च मन्त्रशास्त्रस्यादौ कलाय सुषमं सकलेश्वरं त्वां ध्यानं च निष्कलमसौ प्रणवे खलुक्त्वा त्वामेव तत्र सकलं निजगादनान्यम्.
Okay, we'll just switch halfway around. Lata, you can be a student, and Sujata Garu, you can be a student. Stanza 7. Samastasare cha Purana Sangrahe Visamshayam Twan Mahimaiva Varnyate Trimurti Yuk Satya Pada Tribhagatah Param Padam Te Katitam Nashulinaha. This is referring to another scripture called as Purana Sangraha. This Purana Sangraha is like an essence or a summary of all the Puranas which is there. So in that, again, it says, message is still the same. So he says, even in that Purana Sangraha, Narayana, your greatness has been described in such a way that all the others occupy the Satya Loka and everything, and the whole Brahmandam is less than 1/4 of the energy of the Lord, and the remaining 3/4 of the energy of the Lord is outside the Brahmandam. And there you are there in a special place called Vaikuntham, which is beyond all of this thing, which is kind of what we already spoke about. He says that's what even this other Purana Sangraha is also referring to. Samasta Sare cha Purana Sangrahe, comma, Visamshayam Twan Mahimaiva Varnyate, Trimurti Yuk Satya Pada Tribhagataha is there. Put a F and then put a plus. Tribhagatah Param Padam Te Katitam Na Shulinaha. Samastasare cha Purana Sangrahe Visamshayam Twan Mahimaiva Varnyate Trimurti Yuk Satya Pada Tribhagatah Param Padam Te Katitam Na Shulinaha.
समस्तसारे च पुराणसङ्ग्रहे विसंशयं त्वन्महिमैव वर्ण्यते त्रिमूर्तियुक् सत्यपदत्रिभागतः परं पदं ते कथितं न शूलिनः समस्तसारे च पुराणसङ्ग्रहे विसंशयं त्वन्महिमैव वर्ण्यते त्रिमूर्तियुक्सत्यपदत्रिभागतः परं पदं ते कथितं न शूलिनः
समस्तसारे च पुराणसङ्ग्रहे विसंशयं तन्महिमैव वन्यते त्रिमूर्तियुक्सत्यपदत्रिभागतः परं पदं ते कथितं न शूलिनः समस्तसारे च पुराणसङ्ग्रहे विसंशयं तन्महिमैव वन्यते त्रिमूर्तियुक्सत्यपदत्रिभागतः परं पदं ते कथितं न शूलिनः.
That's it. यद्ब्राह्मकल्प इह भागवत द्वितीय स्कन्धोदितं वपुरनावृतमीशधात्रे तस्यैव नाम हरिशर्वमुखं जगात श्रीमाधव शिवपरोऽपि पुराणसारे. So here is referring to two other scriptures. So one, he says that in Bhagavata Dvitiya Skandoditam, she says in the second skandam of Bhagavatam, it talks about how, Brahma at the beginning of this, or the beginning of the Brahma Kalpa, which we also saw in Dasakam 5, that first, he is able to see when Brahma himself comes on, there's absolutely nothingness, but there's only one thing Brahma is able to see, which is he sees your Vaikuntham and then he sees you there. So that says naturally means you were there before Brahma came itself, right? So that is there in Bhagavatam, which also refers to you, Narayana, as the original source. And the second one, which he is referring to here, is about Sri Madhava Puranasara, in this work called Puranasara, which was written by Sri Madhava. Even there, he is actually talking about the greatness of, he gives you various names, Hari, Narayana, and everything. He talks about you as the same person, as the final source or the supreme source. Yat Brahmakalpa iha Bhagavata Dvitiya, put a plus, Skandhoditam Vapuranavritam Isha. So Vapuranavritam Isha Dhatre. Those two lines together. Tasyaiva Nama Hari Sharva Mukham Jagada, comma, Sri Madhavaha, put a ish, Sri Madhavash Shiva Paropi Puranasare. यद्ब्राह्मकल्प इह भागवत द्वितीय स्कन्धोदितं वपुरनावृतमीशधात्रे तस्यैव नाम हरिशर्वमुखं जगाद श्रीमाधव शिवपरोऽपि पुराणसारे.
यद्ब्राह्मकल्प इह भागवत द्वितीयस्कन्धोदितं वपुरनावृतमीशदात्रे तस्यैव नाम हरिशर्वमुखं जगाद श्रीमाधव शिवपरोऽपि पुराणसारे. यद्ब्राह्मकल्प इह भागवत द्वितीयस्कन्धोदितं वपुरनावृतमीशदात्रे तस्यैव नाम हरिशर्वमुखं जगात श्रीमाधव शिवपरोऽपि पुराणसारे.
यद्ब्राह्मकल्पैः भागवद्द्वितीयस्कन्धोदितं वपुरनावृतमीशधात्रे तस्यैव नाम हरिशर्वमुखं जगाद श्रीमाधव शिवपरोऽपि पुराणसारे.
The third line after Jagada, there is a comma, okay?
Okay, yeah. यद्ब्राह्मकल्पैः भागवद्द्वितीयस्कन्धोदितं वपुरनावृतमीशधात्रे तस्यैव नाम हरिशर्वमुखं जगादां श्रीमाधव शिवपरोऽपि पुराणसारे.
And the first line, Sujata Garu, Bhagavatha. I'm not hearing the ta sound.
Okay, Bhagavata Dvitiya.
Yeah. Stanza 9. ये स्वप्रकृत्यनुगुणा गिरिशं भजन्ते तेषां फलं हि दृढयैव तदीय भक्त्या व्यासो हि तेन कृतवान् अधिकारी हेतोः स्कान्दादिकेषु तव हानि वचोर्तवादैः. It's just summarizing, saying, like we said, each one, that's the beauty of Sanatana Dharma, is each one can follow a god or goddess of their choice, of their liking, of any form. There's nothing like this is right or this is wrong. He says ultimately it all leads to the Supreme Brahman. So there's absolutely no right or wrong about this thing. And he gives an example that even Vyasa, who wrote everything about Krishna and Narayana in Bhagavatam, in Vedas. He compiled the Vedas. He praised the Purusha, the Supreme Brahman. He wrote all this. Even he has also written other scriptures, which is actually praising other gods and goddess. So even Vyasa is saying it doesn't matter which route you take. Everything is okay. Everything is right. That's kind of what he's saying here. So ye swa prakrityenughuna girisham bhajante, comma, tesham phalam hi dridayeva tadiya bhaktya. So he says, even if you, according to your tendencies, according to your liking, you worship Girisha, you worship Shiva, as long as you have dridayeva bhaktya, as long as you have firm devotion, says absolutely you will get your phalam. There's no doubt about it. He's just giving that as one example. So it doesn't matter whether you're doing to Skanda, Muruga, or you're doing to Shiva or to Devi. He says doesn't matter who you worship. As long as you have firm devotion towards that person, you will definitely get the benefits of that. So tesham phalam hi dridayeva tadiya bhaktya vyaso hi tena kritavan adhikari. You can break at that na if you want. Kritavan adhikari hetoho, comma, skandadikeshu tava hani vachortavadhaihi. ये स्वप्रकृत्यनुगुणा गिरिशं भजन्ते तेषां फलं हि दृढयैव तदीय भक्त्या व्यासो हि तेन कृतवान् अधिकारी हेतोः स्कान्दादिकेषु तव हानि वचोर्तवादैः.
ये स्वप्रकृत्यनुगुणा गिरिशं भजन्ते तेषां फलं हि दृढ एव तदीय भक्त्या व्यासो हि तेन कृतवान् अधिकारी हेतोः स्कान्दादिकेषु तव हानि वचोर्तवादैः. ये स्वप्रकृत्यनुगुणा गिरिशं भजन्ते तेषां फलं हि दृढ एव तदीय भक्त्या व्यासो हि तेन कृतवान् अधिकारी हेतोः स्कान्दादिकेषु तव हानि वचोर्तवादैः.
ये स्वप्रकृत्यनुगुणा गिरिशं भजन्ते तेषां फलहि दृढयैव तदीयभक्त्या व्यासो हि तेन कृतवान् अधिकारी हेतोः स्कान्दादिकेषु तव हानिवचोर्तवादैः. ये स्वप्रकृत्यनुगुणा गिरिशं भजन्ते तेषां फलं हि दृढयैव तदीयभक्त्या व्यासो हि तेन कृतवान् अधिकारी हेतोः स्कान्दादिकेषु तव हानिवचोर्तवादैः.
Stanza 10. भूतार्थकीर्तिरनुवाद विरुद्धवादौ त्रेदार्थवादगतयः खलु रोचनार्ताः स्कान्धादिकेषु बहवोऽत्र विरुद्धवादाः त्वत्तामसत्त्वपरिभूत्युपशिक्षणाध्याः. This is, these are, when you talk about statements and debates, right? He says there are some statements where things are exaggerated in some places. Then there are some statements which people make which are based on their experience. Then there are statements which people make without any experience or contrary to the experience. So he says in this lot of other scriptures where somebody's downplaying one or the other, especially you, Narayana, when they are downplaying that, he says that belongs to the category of where they're talking without experience. So essentially, he says there are some scriptures where they have downplayed Narayana. He says that is because they are all talking without any experience. Because he's kind of trying to summarize all the scriptures and how everything eventually leads to one, right? So Bhutartha Kirtir Anuvada, you can break it the tra. Kirtir Anuvada Viruddha Vadau, comma, Tredhartha Vada Gatayaha, put the ich sound, Gatayah, Khalu Rochanartaha, Skandadikeshu Bahavotra Viruddha Vadaha, put a visarga, comma, Vadaha. Next line is goes away. Twattama Sattva Pari Bhutyupa Shikshanadhyaha. भूतार्थकीर्तिरनुवाद विरुद्धवादौ त्रेधार्थवादगतयः खलु रोचनार्ताः स्कान्दादिकेषु बहवोऽत्र विरुद्धवादाः त्वत्तामसत्त्वपरिभूत्युपशिक्षणाध्याः.
भूतार्थकीर्ति भूतार्थकीर्तिरनुवादविरुद्धवादौ त्रेधार्थवादगतयः खलु रोचनार्थाः स्कान्दादिकेषु बहवोऽत्र विरुद्धवादाः त्वत्तामसत्त्वपरिभूत्युपशिक्षणाद्याः भूतार्थकीर्तिरनुवादविरुद्धवादौ त्रेधार्थवादगतयः खलु रोचनार्थाः स्कान्दादिकेषु बहवोऽत्र विरुद्धवादाः त्वत्तामसत्त्वपरिभूत्युपशिक्षणाद्याः
भूतार्थकीर्तिरनुवादविरुद्धवादौ त्रेतार्धवादगतयः खलु रोचनार्थाः स्कान्दादिकेषु बहवोऽत्र विरुद्धवादाः त्वत्तामसत्त्वपरिभूत्युपशिक्षणाद्याः भूतार्थकीर्तिरनुवादविरुद्धवादौ त्रेधार्थवादगतयः खलु रोचनार्थाः स्कान्दादिकेषु बहवोऽत्र विरुद्धवादाः त्वत्तामसत्त्वपरिभूत्युपशिक्षणाद्याः.
Answer 11. यत्किञ्चिदप्यविदुषापि विभो मयोक्तं तन्मन्त्रशास्त्रवचनाद्यभिदृष्टमेव व्यासोक्तिसारमय भागवतोपगीत क्लेशान् विधूय कुरु भक्तिभरं परात्मन्. So in the last he's saying, that whatever has been said above in the last 10 stanzas, maybe I was ignorant. If I have made any mistakes in saying something wrong, right? Please forgive me for that, because what I have done is taking an essence of all the scriptures which are actually there, and I kind of giving a summary of it. So maybe I might have made some mistakes. It's kind of more like a repent, right? Saying if I made a mistake, please forgive me on that. He says, however, he says even Veda Vyasa, who is the greatest of the, who's also an incarnation of Vishnu, right? The Vyasam, Vasishtha, Vishnu and Vyasa are the same. It says Vyasaya Vishnu Rupaya, Vyasa Rupaya Vishnave. So he says one of the incarnations of Vishnu. Even he, after compiling all the Vedas, after writing all the things in Mahabharata, when he was still unsatisfied and he felt like he still had to do one more work to complete his life, he wrote about Bhagavatam, where he placed Narayana the most for the purpose of talking about Narayana. So it says it's more a validation, but he says if I made any mistakes, ignore, right? Or please forgive me for that. With that, he says, forgive me and eradicate all the ailments I might have and increase my bhakti bharam. Give me intense devotion towards you. So yat kinchit apya vidushapi. It might be easier to break at the da. Kinchit apya vidushapi vibho mayoktam, comma, tan mantra shastra vachanadhyabi. So vachanadhyabi drishtameva. Vyasokti sara maya bhagavadopagita, comma, kleshan vidhuya kuru bhakti bharam paratman. यत्किञ्चिदप्यविदुषापि विभो मयोक्तं तन्मन्त्रशास्त्रवचनाद्यभिदृष्टमेव व्यासोक्तिसारमय भागवतोपगीत क्लेशान् विधूय कुरु भक्तिभरं परात्मन्.
यत्किञ्चिदप्यविदुषापि विभो मयोक्तं तन्मन्त्रशास्त्रवचनाद्यपि दृष्टमेव व्यासोक्तिसारमय भागवतोपगीत क्लेशान् विधूय कुरु भक्तिपरं परात्मन्. यत्किञ्चिदप्यविदुषापि विभो मयोक्तं तन्मन्त्रशास्त्रवचनाद्यपि दृष्टमेव व्यासोक्तिसारमय भागवतोपगीत क्लेशान् विधूय कुरु भक्तिभरं परात्मन्.
यत्किञ्चिदप्यविदुषापि विभो मयोक्तं तन्मन्त्रशास्त्रवचनाद्यभिदृष्टमेव व्यासोक्तिसारमय भागवतोपगीता क्लेशान् विधूय कुरु भक्तिभरं परात्मन्. यत्किञ्चिदप्यविदुषापि विभो मयोक्तं तन्मन्त्रशास्त्रवचनाद्यभिदृष्टमेव व्यासोक्तिसारमय भागवतोपगीता क्लेशान् विधूय कुरु गुरुभक्तिभरं परात्मन्.
Shri Krishnaya Parabrahmane Namaha. Finish 90. We have 5 more Dashakams left. So maybe 93. Today we can do a couple of stanzas. Maybe do 2 stanzas or something today. So this 93 is filled with explanations. So 93 Dashakam is Pancha Vimshater Gurubhyash Shikshaniyasya Varnana. So he's saying lessons from 25 gurus. So it's kind of, and we'll see who those gurus are. It will be very interesting. And essentially what he's saying, each guru that we're going to talk about here is giving a lesson for our life, right? How we need to lead our life or what we need to do. So it's going to talk about all of those lessons that is there.
ராஜேஷ்,
Uh,
what is that title again? தசகம் இது இங்க வந்து சதுர்வம்சத்தின்னு கொடுத்திருக்கு. நீங்க என்ன சொன்னீங்க?
Pancha Vimshate. So because Chatur Vimshatina means 24, but there's actually a 25th guru also who is coming in there at the very end. So the way it is generally speaking, they say there are 24 gurus, which is what is written. Okay. But Bhattadripad is going to talk about a 25th guru. So anala, the right title should be Pancha Vimshate.
Pancha Vimshati or Vimshate?
Vimshater. Gurubhyash Gurubhyaha. That should be there, right? Gurubhyash Shikshaniyasya Varnanam.
Yes, Shikshaniyasya. Okay.
But generally, when you search for it, it will say there are 24 gurus.
Okay.
But there's a 25th guru that Bhattadripad is going to talk about extra. So, stanza 1. Bandhu sneham bijahyam tavahi karunayam त्वय्युपावेशितात्मा सर्वं त्यक्त्वा चरेयं सकलमपि जगद् वीक्ष्य मायाविलासं नानात्वाद् भ्रान्तिजन्यात् सति खलु गुणदोषावबोधे विदिर्वा व्यासेधो वा कथं तौ त्वयि निहितमतेः वीत वैषम्य बुद्धेः. So he says, "Oh Krishna, by your grace only by your grace, it will help me to abandon my love for bandhu and bandhu sneham, means abandon my love for my friends and relatives," right? He says. Because why? He says, because if you have to get liberated, if you're attached to your friends and relatives and everybody else, you can never give up your body. You will keep taking birth, right? Because like we spoke about, at the time of your death, if you're thinking about, oh, what is my family going to do? I hope I wrote my will properly. I hope all the account information has been thought properly. I hope my kids get married, my grandkids. If you keep thinking about it, you will take birth again, because you have to fulfill all the things that you are thinking at the time of your death, right? So he says, please eradicate all the ties I'm having with my, relatives and friends and everybody, because that's the only way out. So, this happens when, some of these, all of this is taken from, like I said, the Uddhava Gita, right? So when Krishna is about to leave earth, so at that time, Uddhava goes and tells Krishna, so Krishna, like, if you leave, what's going to happen to this world? Who's going to take care of everything? How can you leave? How can you abandon everybody and leave here, right? So at that time, Krishna then tells Uddhava that, that this is, you said correctly that I'm going to be leave. However, he said you should be self-realized. You should give up all identification. Remove your identification with me as a person, as a physical person who is there, right? So Krishna gives that thing to Uddhava. That's where all of the stories are going to come. So he says, with Bhattadripad says, is with your blessing, with my mind always engrossed in you, I want to renounce everything, because that is the first step for you to get liberated. You have to renounce everything, and then I'll walk around this world knowing that everything that I see and everything I experience in this world is nothing but your Maya, right? There's absolutely nothing which is not of that. So because the moment you start thinking about what is good, what is bad, anything of duality, then he says, then there'll always be, you say something is bad, then you will feel aversion towards it. You find something is good, then you'll start liking it more. So he says there should be no difference between good and bad. So you only have to bless me, so I don't think of it as two different things. So bandhu sneham vijahyam tavahi karunaya, त्वय्यु पावेशितात्मा, sarvam tyaktva chareyam, sakalamapi jagad vikshya maya vilasam. Bandhu sneham bijahyam tavahi karunaya त्वय्युपावेशितात्मा सर्वं त्यक्त्वा चरेयं सकलमपि जगद्वीक्ष्य मायाविलासम्
बन्धुस्नेहं विजह्यां तव हि करुणया त्वय्युपावेशितात्मा सर्वं त्यक्त्वा चरेयं सकलमपि जगद्वीक्ष्य मायाविलासम् बन्धुस्नेहं विजह्यां तव हि करुणया त्वय्युपावेशितात्मा सर्वं त्यक्त्वा चरेयं सकलमपि जगद्वीक्ष्य मायाविलासम्
बन्धुस्नेहं विजह्यां तव हि करुणया त्वय्युपावेशितात्मा सर्वं त्यक्त्वा चरेयं सकलमपि जगद्वीक्षमायाविलासम् बन्धुस्नेहं विजह्यां तव हि करुणया त्वय्युपावेशितात्मा सर्वं त्यक्त्वा चरेयं सकलमपि जगद्वीक्षमायाविलासम्
नानात्वाद् भ्रान्ति जन्यात् सति खलु गुण दोषावबोधे विधिर्वा व्यासेधो वा कथं तौ त्वयि निहित matehe. So put a visarga and comma there, nihita matehe. Next line on top of the vita there is a ir that goes away. Vita vaishamya buddhehe. नानात्वाद् भ्रान्तिजन्यात् सति खलु गुणदोषावबोधे विधिर्वा व्यासेधो वा कथं तौ त्वयि निहितमतेः वीतवैषम्यबुद्धेः
नानात्वाद् भ्रान्तिजन्यात् सति खलु गुणदोषावबोधे no, I think I'm missing the bit. नानात्वाद् भ्रान्तिजन्यात् सति खलु गुणदोषावबोधे विधिर्वा व्यासेदो वा कथं त्वयि निहितमते वीतवैषम्यबुद्धेः
Lata, on the third line after janyat only there's a comma, okay, and then fourth line nihita matehe.
निहितमते नानात्वात् भ्रान्तिजन्यात् सति खलु गुणदोषावबोधे विधिर्वा व्यासेदो वा कथं त्वयि निहितमते वीतवैषम्यबुद्धेः
निहितमतेः विसर्गः
निहितमतेः वीतवैषम्यबुद्धेः
नानात्वा भ्रान्तिजन्यात् सति खलु गुणदोषावबोधे विधिर्वा व्यासेधो वा कथं त्वयि निहितमतेः वीतवैषम्यबुद्धेः नानात्वाद् भ्रान्तिजन्यात् सति खलु गुणदोषावबोधे विधिर्वा व्यासेधो वा कथं त्वयि निहितमतेः वीतवैषम्यबुद्धेः.
That's a two. We'll stop after this today. Kshutrishna lopamatre satata kritadiyo jantava santyanantaha tebhyo vijnanavatvat purushaiha varaha tajjanir durlabhaiva tatrapyatmatmanasya suhrudapi cha ripuhu yastvahinyastachetaha tapo chitte rupayam smarati sahi suhrute swatma vairi tatonyah. So it says in this world, right, it starts off with basic vegetation, things that don't move, right? Trees, plants, and all of those things. And then you have certain species of life which are coming. He says with those species are very foolish, initially. There are some species who can only smell. That's the only thing they have. They can't remember anything, right? They don't have a mind. They can only smell and they survive on that. And then you kind of go up in the species. Then you have animals and things who are primarily only focused on, security. They want to take care of their lives. And then they are focused on hunger and thirst. We also wonder, right? This cow is just sitting there, right? All it does is it eats, it drinks, it goes to sleep. It doesn't have anything else. It doesn't think about anything. There are a lot of animals like that who only focused on food. So here, as she says, as you evolve, then when you come to the life of a human, the human has a mind to be able to discriminate between what is good and what is bad. So he says this human life is very durlabham. It is not an easy thing for you to get. So when you've got this human mind, when you become a human and you have this ability, he says don't put this to waste. And how you don't put it to waste, and I'll put a disclaimer statement, not that I follow it either, right? So he says, the one thing he says is, anything that you are doing, the biggest enemy is you yourself. So he says, do not blame others, saying, you know, I did this because you made me do it. It is because of you that I'm actually taking this action. He says, do not blame anybody else, because this human, the biggest advantage you have is your mind to be able to discriminate what is right, what is wrong. So if you are doing something wrong, it is because of you alone. So he says, your mind is your biggest friend, and your mind is also your biggest enemy. So he says, so please, you know, bless me, O Narayana, so that I can put this mind to good use, so that this human birth of mine is also put to good use. And the next set of stanzas, I said I will stop here, because the next set of things he's going to talk about how you can, what lessons you can learn from people around to put your mind to proper use, right? So he says that is the only way, by getting control over this mind, and by doing this, you can actually get through all these sorrows and miseries and everything. He says at the end of the day, you are the only one who's responsible, because your mind is the one which is responsible for all of this. So Kshut Trishna Lopa Matre, comma, Satata Kritadiyo Jantavaha, put a is Jantavas Santyanantaha, put a Visargan, comma. Next line is goes away. Tebhyo Vijnana Vatvat Purusha Iha Varaha. So that is there, remove it, put a Visarga, comma. Taj Janir Durlabhaiva. Kshutrishna Lopamatre Satata Kritadhiyo Jantava Santyanantaha Tebhyo Vijnanavatvat Purusha Iha Varaha Taj Janir Durlabhaiva.
श्रुतृष्णालोपमात्रे सततकृतधियो जन्तवः सन्त्यनन्ताः तेभ्यो विज्ञानवत्वात् पुरुष इह वरः तज्जनिर्दुर्लभैव श्रुतृष्णालोपमात्रे सततकृतधियो जन्तवः सन्त्यनन्ताः तेभ्यो विज्ञानवत्वात् पुरुष इह वरः तज्जनिर्दुर्लभैव
क्षुतृष्णालोपमात्रे सततकृतधियो जन्तवः सत्यनन्ताः तेभ्यो विज्ञानवत्वात् पुरुष इह वरः सज्जनिर्दुर्लभैव.
Sujata Garu, that first line, last word, Santyanantaha, in sound.
Okay, Santyanantaha.
Yeah.
Okay. क्षुतृष्णालोपमात्रे सततकृतधियो क्षुतृष्णालोपमात्रे सततकृतधियो जन्तवः सन्त्यनन्ताः तेभ्यो विज्ञानवत्वात् पुरुष इह वरः सज्जनिर्दुर्लभैव.
Tatrapyatmatmana. It's one word, you cannot break it. So Tatrapyatmatmanaha, put a is. Syat suhrudapi cha ripuhu. Visargan, comma there. Next line, yes twai, there is a ir on top that goes away. Yes twai nyasta chetaha. Another Visargan, comma. Next line is goes away. Tapo chitte rupayam Smarati sahi suhrut, comma, swatma vairi tatonyah. Tatrapyatmatmanasyat suhrudapi cha ripuhu yastvahinyasta chetaha tapo chitte rupayam smarati sahi suhrut swatma vairi tatonyah.
तत्राप्यात्मात्मनः स्यात्. Can you repeat that word, Rajesh? It's
Yeah,
been
you
difficult.
cannot break it, unfortunately. Okay, so Tatrapyatmatmanas, 3 it or 2 it, sorry,
Oh,
1 if and 2 it. So, Tatrapyatmatmanas.
तत्राप्यात्मात्मनः स्यात् सुहृदपि च रिपुः यस्त्वयि नस्य चेताः तापो चित्तेरुपायं स्मरति सहि सुहृः swatmavairi tatonyah. That is suhruhu, right? Because that
Suhrit.
ha has a ru and then there.
It and the fourth line, smarati sahi suhrit, it friend, suhrit.
Okay,
friend.
suhrut, then swatmavairi tatonyah.
Yeah.
Okay. Tatrapyatmanatmana syat suhrudapi cha ripuhu.
I think you said something else on the first word.
Tatra, it's tatra yatmat manas syat suhrudapi cha. Correct?
Yeah, correct.
Okay. Tatra yatmatmanas syat suhrudapi cha ripuhu yastvayit nastachetaha tapo chitterupayam smarati sahi suhrut swatmavairi tatonyah.
तत्राप्यात्मात्मनस्यात् सुहृदपि च रिपुः यस्त्वयिन्यस्तचेताः तापोचित्तेरुपायं स्मरति सह तापोचित्तेरुपायं स्मरति सहि सुहृतु स्वाप्नवैरी ततोऽन्यः तत्राप्यात्मात्मनस्यात् सुहृदपि च रिपुः यस्त्वयिन्यस्तचेताः तापोचित्तेरुपायं स्मरति सहि सुहृतु स्वाप्नवैरी ततोऽन्यः.
Krishnaya Parabrahmane Namaha. End here today because the rest, I think the lessons will start with the various gurus. So I don't want to. Sandhranandhavabodhatmakamanupamitam kaladeshavadebhyam nirmuktam nityamuktam nigamashatasahasrena nirbhasyamanam aspashtam drishtamatre punarurupurushartatmakam brahma tattvam tattavad bhati sakshat guru pavanapure hanta bhagyam jananam kahena vacha manasendriyerva buddhyatmana va prakrite swabhavat करोमि यत् सकलं परस्मै नारायणायेति समर्पयामि. Thank you, everyone. I think another 4 more classes, I think we'll be able to finish the remaining 5 Dasakams. Okay. So
Rajesh, I have a question. Do we have class next week or no? Memorial Day weekend.
Are people? What is the availability of people?
Sorry, I'm not sure. And everybody's invited to St. Louis for Brahmotsavam. I'll share the invite also in the WhatsApp group. It's happening during the Memorial Day weekend.
Yeah.
Then we'll also go there.
Vijay, check, okay? If Ram and Ramya come there.
Yes, all are invited. You can come stay with us. Please come home.
Sure.
I will share everything.
Yeah, I mean, we can skip next week, but then we cannot miss any more classes in June because I want to finish this. July 4th will come and then we lose the slot. So I want to finish it before end of June. Okay. So next week we can skip and then the next 4 weeks in June we'll finish the rest.
Rajesh, I have another question. Do you have a drive which says the Dasakam in order instead of what you've taught us? Like 1, 2, 3, 4.
It is there, right? And the Google Drive is there, right?
I'll
post it in the group. There is a Google Drive which has all the Dashakam's MP3s.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay.
Bye. One other thing I wanted to share, you talked about like how fast the mind is, like mind is our own enemy and friend. That reminds me of Yaksha Prashna, like what is fastest?
Correct. What is faster than anything, right? He says the mind is the most fastest.
Yeah. So right. Just wanted
Anyway,
to share.
we'll see some of these gurus' examples that they'll talk about. It will be very interesting what we can learn from that. So
yeah, sure. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.